What's happening, party people? Happy Motivate Monday. We have just over 3 weeks remaining in the month of December, the closeout month of 2025. And my hope, my wish, my prayer, my desire for you is that you are locked in for a phenomenal finish to 2025 and a great launch pad into the new year. I want to talk about the power of negativity, and more specifically, the awesome power of those defining moments where we experienced great pain or humiliation or embarrassment or anger or disappointment or betrayal, disgust, whatever that emotion, and we would call it a negative emotion because it impacts us in a certain way, but by the same token, it can be one of the greatest drivers to positive outcomes, great success, great positive impact in your life if you leverage it and utilize it in an empowering way. I was a part of a breakdance group called the Cybernetic Crew, and we were just starting out and we were performing in a talent show. And so we each had a part that we would do, and then we would do these, things together. And we had been rehearsing, and this was our very first performance. It was actually the very first time that I had ever been in front of anyone doing anything in terms of a group and audience. And I will never forget, we were introduced and we went out on stage and we were doing our something as a unit. It wasn't a lot, and then I was going to be the first to do my part, and I was center stage, and I really looked out into the audience, and I saw what looked like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. In reality, it's probably like whatever, maybe 125, but it felt like 3,000. And I looked out into all of these faces and I froze. Everything that we had rehearsed, everything that I had emblazoned in my brain, just it was gone. And I just was staring at the crowd. And one of our members, Carlin, he saw this and he immediately went into a move and did a spin and just got the crowd going crazy. And I don't really know if anybody else knew, but our group knew. He knew, and he saved my behind. But I'll never forget forget that moment, because when I went off the stage, I was embarrassed. I felt like I let the group down. And I said to myself, I'm never going to let this happen again. And we were kids, okay, when this happened, but I'll never forget it. It was a defining moment of embarrassment and even humiliation. And I decided to use it as fuel for my own personal fire, that I was always going to be so prepared that my preparation would override any short circuit that fear, discomfort, anxiety, nerves, it would override everything. So even if I was feeling all those other emotions, my preparation would be into such a state and a level, such a capacity, that I would still be able to perform at a level of excellence. And I never, ever had a moment like that on stage again. So it doesn't mean that I didn't have moments when I was nervous or I was, had anxiety. I had those things, but I was so prepared that I still was able to perform at a high level. So that's an example. And I'm sure you've had moments in your life where you fell short or you fell on your face or it didn't turn out the way you thought. And the question is, what did you do with that emotion? What did you do with that loss? Many of us, probably all of us, at some point, if you're fortunate, you've gone through a heartbreak. And when that first heartbreak happens, it feels like your entire world is over, like everything is upside down, and nothing looks the same. You can't see colors anymore. It's a rainy day every day. The sun stops shining. You can't eat. You can't sleep, and it just feels like this perpetual torture mechanism is operating at its most effective levels in you. And eventually you heal from that. And then, if you're wise, if you're applying wisdom, you take lessons from that pain and that heartbreak. You take observations. You ask yourself better questions. You really look back and take stock of what were the takeaways. What did you learn? How did you grow? And when your heart gets broken, it mends. And when it mends, it's actually stronger. Now, if any of you have ever broken a bone in your body, you know what I'm talking about. That arm, when you break it and it heals back, this arm is actually stronger than the arm that's never been broken. If you break a bone in your leg that with the broken bone is actually stronger. That bone is stronger than the bone that's never been broken. And it's the same thing when you have a broken heart. That heart, it mends and it's stronger. It doesn't mean that you're closed off or that you're hard hearted. It just means that you're a little bit tougher. You can endure a little bit more. You start to make a little bit better choices, ideally, if you're applying wisdom. You have better discernment. You know how to navigate through difficult things instead of running away. You know how to ascertain if you're with someone who has the same value system that you do. We all have to go through those things. And if we're again applying wisdom, we grow through those things. So my question for you is, what negative word for you has actually become a driver? What negative experience for you has actually become a driver? It's the person who says, I have had enough. And I have such a level of disgust with myself and where I am that where I'm going has now become non-negotiable because where I'm at is intolerable. Where I'm going is non-negotiable because where I'm at is intolerable. I have so much disgust for where I'm at. And so you use that as fuel so that you're taking actions every day that are moving you closer to your next destination, that inevitable outcome that's non-negotiable, and moving you further away from where you're at, that has you so disgusted. That's such a great word. And so we have these defining moments, these defining experiences, and they're usually going to have a negative connotation to them. It's like, hey, I'm just sick and tired of being sick and tired, Ed. I'm sick and tired of my employer abusing me and misusing me, of being overworked and underpaid and undervalued and at times even disrespected. I'm tired of feeling expendable. I'm tired of feeling like I'm just an option and I'm just, I'm replaceable. And so I need to do something different. And remember what we talked about. If you want to have a different outcome, you have to do one of two things: do things differently or do different things. So that disgust becomes the driver to move you off your spot and into a new spot and put you into your uncomfortable growth zone, because you know you have the capacity to heal, you have the capacity to learn, you have the capacity to grow. And you put all those things together and you start learning some new skills. You start surrounding yourself with some different people, some more eagles, less pigeons, maybe get rid of all the pigeons if you can, but more and more eagles. And you're putting yourself around thinking that's outthinking you so you can continue to elevate. Another word, I wrote some down, the humiliation. The humiliation of getting your credit card declined. The humiliation, the embarrassment of how that moment when you don't have enough and how that feels, and allow that to really burn inside your gut, burn inside your belly, and let that be a driver so that you're doing the right activities and the right behaviors to move out of that situation. Again, if that's learning a new skill, if it's taking on a new assignment, if it's working smarter as well as working harder, if it's starting that business and learning how to build a successful business in addition to your other income, whatever that is that's going to move you off that spot, let that be the driver. So humiliation is a great driver because it's how we feel emotionally. It's the embarrassment. It's how other people look at us. That's when you can leverage that. I'm not one that really cares what other people think, but I will use and leverage moments of embarrassment and humiliation that have stayed with me as drivers to know that I'm committed to my outcome. It's not going to be easy. It doesn't happen very rarely happens in the time that you want it to happen, but it's going to happen if you keep putting in the time, keep putting in the work. So that's my challenge for you, is to identify one or two things. It's a word, or it's an experience, an emotional defining moment. And from that, there's a word that you take away that becomes that driver. Again, if it's disgust, if it's embarrassment, if it's humiliation, if it's anger, if it's heartbreak, if it's betrayal, whatever that word is, let it be the driver for you to become a better version of yourself, to show up better for your goals and your dreams, to show up as that person that you're chasing, which is who you're going to be in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now. That ever better version of yourself is what you're going after, because you're doing the activity today to create that reality tomorrow. So I just wanted to give you that. I hope you're having a fantastic start to the month of December as we close out 2025. Let's do it with intention. Let's do it with hard work, dedication, and commitment. Let's do it with a standard of excellence in everything that we do. Let's show up every day, starting each day with determination, so that we can go to bed with satisfaction. If you got some value out of this, please like and subscribe. Share the video with some people that can get some benefits from it too. And let us use those negative experiences, those defining moments that kind of broke us down, to build us up. Let us use those as drivers, turning a negative into a positive by allowing it to fuel that drive and that determination, because where we are is intolerable, because where we're going is non-negotiable.